Hey, thanks for checking out Nuts and Bolts with Tone, and welcome to my channel. Today we have a 2014 2.4 Honda Accord with a P0087 fuel pressure too low code. So in this, I looked it up and I found a TSB that stated to replace the high pressure fuel pump if the fuel level is over 3%. So what I'm guessing is that they're thinking that if it's below 3%, then maybe it's sucking air because it's got a low fuel level. So doesn't matter. I followed the TSB. My vehicle fit the TSB perfectly, and it said to replace the high pressure fuel pump, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Before I do, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell to get notified of all my future content, which you're definitely going to want to see.
All right, so here is the TSB for this Honda right here. If you have a P0087, make sure that your vehicle fits this VIN, and if it does, then it states as long as the fuel level percentage is above 3%, then replace the high pressure fuel pump. I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, here we go. Got a 2014 Honda 2.4 Accord, and we are going to be replacing the high pressure fuel pump, and that is under this cover. So the parts that you would normally replace when doing this pump, which are some of the pipes and things like that, they're no longer available, and so we're just going to be replacing this pump, and that's it. So you're supposed to remove the intake manifold and everything else, but I think we can get away without removing the intake. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this cover. Let me get it off. All right, so to get this cover off, all you got to do is pop the vacuum line here and here and here, and it just pops up. There's just a push pin, and right there, a retainer. You're going to take your air box out. You got a mass airflow sensor clip here, mass airflow sensor. Just 3 clips, pop this out, pull it out of the air tube, get the intake air tube out, and take your PCV hose out and your PCV hose off there. All right, the next thing we got to do is get this bracket off right here. So you're going to have 2 clips right here. You're going to pop these 2 clips for the harness, and right here you're going to just take this little pin and push it down and pull this out so you have room. If you want a little more room, you could disconnect these clips and these connectors, and it'll allow you to move this harness more, but you'll be all right. So you got a 12mm bolt here and a 12mm bolt there, and then a 12 here. You're going to unbolt those, and you got to pull this out. Now you see the heater hoses are attached. So now we got to disconnect the heater hoses from this bracket and get it out of here. All right, so here's the bracket like this. Heater hoses, I just popped the heater hoses out of the bracket, slipped the bracket out. Put that up there. Okay, so now we can see everything. We got this plastic clip down here, and it was originally up. I popped it down, and then I'm going to take it off. Can't do it one-handed, but anyways, that clip is just hanging on there. You can see it's just hanging on there. Okay, and then there is a low pressure fuel line clip. You just depress those 2 white tabs, and we'll disconnect the fuel line from this line right here. So that's what connects there. And then we have this bracket here. You can pop it out. It's just attached to this line here. You got these 2 clips here. Pop this out to get it out of your way. And we're going to undo this nut right here for this line. Normally you would replace this high pressure line, but it's discontinued, so you can't. So we're just going to unscrew it and disconnect the electrical connector. And then you have the 2 Allens. All right. So the nut here for the high pressure line is a 19mm. You're going to take it off. It'll slide down there. We should be able to pull this back and slip the pump out and put it in the new pump. This connector here is kind of tricky. You've got to depress the inner part there. So what I ended up doing was using these pliers here, and they were able to reach in there and push both clips and pop it out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to undo these Allens. Those are let me get the Carbine Tools 6mm long deep Allen. Okay, so Technically, to do this job, you're supposed to remove the intake manifold because you're supposed to replace this high pressure fuel line. Can't do that. We're not doing that because it's not available. Now you're also supposed to roll the engine over until it's at a certain degrees because this high pressure pump has a lot of tension on it. I didn't really do that. I just applied pressure and took the 214s out. Now you also have to undo this purge valve here, so you got a 10 above and a 10 below the lower line. You got to take those out so you can move this, and then you'll just have to pull back the low pressure fuel line to slip it out. And now let's see if I could do this one-handed. I got the high pressure fuel line is in the way. There we go. All right, so we're out. So you can do it without rolling the engine over. You can do it without taking off the intake manifold. You don't have to do, you know, all the stuff for the job. Pretty much, there it is. Pump is out. So now we're gonna clean everything up. And you wanna make sure that your cup right there stays inside. That rides on the camshaft. And that's what the spring goes in. It's your little bucket. You wanna make sure that stays in there. Now we're gonna clean everything up. Now one tip is, make sure you pull this white clip off right here and put it in the fuel line so that way it just snaps in. That's pretty much it. All right, let me get this all cleaned up and prepared and I'll tell you how to torque it. All right, so this is what that bucket looks like underneath the high pressure pump. So there's a notch right here. And there is a notch above. So if you do pull this out, you want to make sure that you put it back exactly where it goes. So now remember, we didn't do this by the book, and so everything kind of has to finagle in. So if you get your pump from Honda, this should all be attached. So I'm not going to touch this, but there is a torque spec for that banjo bolt there. But the two Allens are 18 foot-pounds. So we're going to have to finagle this back in. Just make sure you loosely fit everything before you push this down. Now this is a pretty strong spring right here. So you're going to have to really push down on this pump and get these bolts started. And I would recommend that you get the bolts going pretty good before you try to tighten them against the spring. So I'm going to just apply pressure the whole time while I tighten this down until I get these bolts run all the way down. So make sure you lube your O-ring right there. All right, let me get this finagled in. All right, so one thing I didn't show you was you really want to make sure that you have enough clearance between this pump before you have to start putting pressure, where you probably have about that much space between the pump and the head. So that way you can start to tighten it down. And you can see now I've been tightening it down. I've got my low level line connected and I've got my high pressure line here. Now that I'm tightening this thing down, you just want to make sure that you slowly work this back and forth. Just a couple turns each. Don't use an electric ratchet, don't use an air ratchet. Just go by hand, because you do not want these threads to get damaged. Like I said, we didn't do this by the book, which is turn the engine over to top dead center and then roll the engine over to 105 degrees, which is what the spec is. We didn't do that because you don't really need to do all that. You just need to be careful of what you're doing. Now the other thing that just happened to me is my nut for my high pressure line down there is pinched. So I'm gonna have to pull this line away and then lift that nut up and get it started here. All right, let me get that on. All right, so here we go. I've got my my Matco torque wrench here. We're gonna go to 18 foot-pounds. We're gonna do that on both sides. I like to give it just a second turn just to make sure. All right, and now that that's torqued, You just want to make sure you don't forget to put your low level clip on that keeps the line from coming off. Don't forget to tighten your purge valve back up. So we move this so we can move it away. And then from here, we just connected the connector, and now we're going to put this nut on, and we're just gonna make it tight. And we're going to reverse, do everything in reverse. All right, and that is how you replace a high pressure fuel pump in a Honda without following all the procedures. And as you can see, my pump is in. Everything is fine. All right, so before you put your cover on and everything, you want to start it up and make sure you don't have a leak from this high pressure fuel connection here. Because once you put that on, you can't see it. So this battery's dead here. So I got my, my JNC 345, and we're gonna start this thing up. So now, if there was a leak, you want to stay the hell away from it. You want to not stand over it. You want to not put your fingers near it, because it would slice, because it has such a high pressure that it would be like a knife. The leak would be extremely bad. So don't ever come over near it. If there's a leak, turn it off and stay away until it's done. All right, let me get the scan tool hooked up and I'll show you what you're looking for. All right. So for this TSB, basically it says if you have a P0087 and your fuel level is above 3%, then replace the high pressure fuel pump. So as you can see, we're above 3%. Lube pump is in, running, no issues, no leaks. Intake manifold did not come off. That's how you get it done, right there. So in this video, I showed you how to do this high pressure fuel pump, and you should be able to do this in less than an hour. I think book time is 2.5 hours for this high pressure fuel pump. Also, there's a part that I showed you, well, I talked about the fuel feed line that you're supposed to replace. It's not available from Honda anymore, so we didn't replace it. Back in the day when the high pressure fuel systems first came out, they said that any high pressure fuel connection that was broken had to be replaced. And so now we're finding that we don't actually have to replace those. But what I showed you in the video I talked about was, if you do have a leak, turn the vehicle off. Do not try to go look at it. It will cut. It has that much pressure and it will be like a razor blade cutting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell. You get notified of all my future content, which you're definitely going to want to see. Also, check me out on Instagram at Nuts and Bolts with Tone for my daily life as a mechanic. Show you how to do all kinds of cool stuff, show you some gas, show you some diesel, show you some tools. Just kind of show you what I'm working on from a day-to-day basis as a flat rate technician. Also, check me out my merchandise store where you can get yourself a t-shirt or a coffee cup and support the channel. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you next time.